Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, have you ever found yourself just lying awake at night, completely stuck on replay? You know, you're decoding a conversation, trying to figure out what someone really meant, or maybe you're mentally rehearsing exactly what you're going to say to them the next day. We have literally all been there. But today, we're diving into a profound concept from Carl Jung that is going to fundamentally shift how you look at your most exhausting relationships. He had a radically different take on what's actually happening in our brains during those late-night spiral sessions.
And honestly, this concept completely flips the script on what we think love and connection actually are. Because think about it, we're so conditioned to believe that constant mental attention equals love, right? Like if someone is occupying our thoughts 24/7, it must mean we deeply care about them, that we're truly connected. But Jung argues something wild here. He says that obsessively thinking about someone actually disconnects you from them. He suggests that when a person is taking up that much real estate in your head, you aren't really relating to them at all. You're doing something else entirely.
So, what are you actually doing? Well, it's called projection, and it is fascinating how this redefines our mental habits. When you're lying awake overanalyzing someone's behavior, you're not engaging with them. You're taking parts of your own internal world, your feelings, your fears, your unspoken desires, maybe even parts of yourself you kind of don't like, and you are projecting them onto this other person. It's like you're draping your own psychology over them like a costume. You think you're analyzing them, but Jung would say you're really just staring into a highly distorted mirror.
And it is such an easy trap to fall into. What happens is we literally stop dealing with the actual person because the actual person is complex, right? They're totally out of our control and they're living in their own separate reality. But instead of dealing with that, we start interacting with a mental construction. This version of them that lives in your head is just an elaborate story built completely out of your own fears and hopes. And the crazy part is, the more you obsess over them, the more detailed this fake mental avatar becomes, which ironically just pulls you further and further away from knowing who they actually are in real life. Now, Jung actually had a specific term for this level of enmeshment. He called it participation mystique. Which, yeah, sounds very fancy, but what he was warning us about is that this state might feel like a super deep connection, but really, it's just an exhausting loss of your own identity. Think about it. When you are constantly trying to anticipate someone else's moods, or you're tweaking your behavior to please them, or obsessing over what they think of you, you start to lose track of where you end and they begin. It mimics intimacy, sure, but it's really just psychological entanglement. You are losing your own center.
Which brings us to a really crucial and frankly kind of uncomfortable question. What am I avoiding by focusing on them? Because once we realize that fixating on other people is often just a psychological defense mechanism, man, everything changes. Our minds are incredibly clever. Sometimes pouring absolutely all of our psychic energy into analyzing someone else's life is just a really effective way to avoid looking at our own. It is the ultimate distraction tactic.
Because as long as you're busy playing detective with someone else's life, you get a free pass from facing the void of your own unaddressed emotions. Things like your own loneliness, the fear of the unknown, maybe some unprocessed grief or suppressed anger and shame, or even just the really big, terrifying question of what your own life's purpose is. Facing that stuff takes immense courage. It is way easier to just obsess over why your ex didn't text back or what your boss really meant in that meeting. But by outsourcing all your mental energy to others, you're abandoning yourself, leaving your own vital inner questions completely unanswered.
And this is where we really need to get honest with ourselves about the stark difference between productive thinking and the repetitive groove of destructive rumination. You know, you might tell yourself, oh, I'm just processing, or I'm just trying to understand. But let's look at it. Productive thinking actually solves a problem or makes a plan. It has a clear beginning, middle, and end, and it leads to an action. Destructive rumination? That's just driven by internal anxiety. It loops the exact same non-conclusions over and over. It's a mental compulsion trying to make you feel safe. But spoiler alert, it never works, does it? It just completely drains your psychic energy and keeps you stuck.
So what this really boils down to is the shift from outside-in living to inside-out living. When you're living from the outside in, you're constantly reactive. Your peace of mind completely depends on things you literally cannot control, like a friend's bad mood or constantly seeking external validation. It is such an unstable way to exist. But living from the inside out, that brings actual stability. You're grounded in yourself. You know what your own needs are, and your security is internal, meaning it holds strong no matter what kind of chaos is happening around you.
So how do we get there? Well, to reclaim that mental energy, Jung calls us toward a process called individuation. This is the ultimate goal here. It basically means becoming way more interested in your own inner life than you are in figuring everybody else out. It's the lifelong process of peeling back all those layers of who you were taught to be, letting go of the relentless people-pleasing, and figuring out who you actually are at your core. It means gathering up all that mental energy you've been throwing outward and finally bringing it right back home to yourself.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. A lot of people worry, wait, if I stop obsessing over someone, doesn't that mean I don't care about them anymore? Actually, no. Withdrawing that obsessive focus doesn't make you cold. It's the exact opposite. It makes you capable of a mature, spacious love. See, needy love is desperate. It demands that the other person fill some emptiness inside of you, and it seeks control. But mature love, it respects boundaries. It relates from a place of inner fullness. When you do that, you can finally love someone for who they actually are, rather than what you desperately need them to be.
Let's look at a super practical example of how this overthinking ruins things: rehearsing conversations. We have all done it. Endlessly rehearsing future conversations in your mind actually blocks real connection. We totally think we're protecting ourselves by planning out every possible response, right? But then, when you're actually talking to the person, you aren't really listening to them. You're just waiting for your cue to deliver your rehearsed line. You end up responding to an imagined script in your head instead of the very real, unpredictable human being standing right in front of you.
All right, so how do we actually stop doing this? To break a habit this deeply ingrained, you have to actively train a new neural pathway. And it starts really simply with 3 steps. Number 1, notice the thought, but without judgment. Just be like, oh, okay, there I go obsessing again. Number 2, observe the mental loop for what it is. And number 3, gently, and this is key, gently redirect your attention back to yourself, back to your breath, back to the physical sensations in your body right now. It definitely takes practice, but every single time you redirect, you are taking your power back.
And once you pull your attention back, what do you do with it? Well, you turn that intense, laser-focused curiosity you used to aim at others directly toward yourself. Start asking questions to bring yourself back home. What do I need right now? What am I feeling in my body? What is true for me in this very moment? What brings me alive? What am I actually afraid of? We spend so much energy trying to decode other people. Imagine what would happen if you gave yourself that exact same level of dedicated attention and care.
Because the ultimate realization of this whole explainer is so beautiful. It's the understanding that you have always been whole. You literally never needed to obsess over another person to be complete. All that safety, all that validation and connection you were so desperately trying to manufacture by managing other people's perceptions, it's already yours. It has literally been sitting inside you all along. It was just waiting for you to quiet all that external noise long enough to actually notice it.
So, as we wrap up, and as you start to reclaim your mental energy and redirect it inward, I want you to just sit with this final question. What would actually be left if you just stopped trying to figure them out? The space that opens up in your mind might feel a little terrifying at first. It might even feel kind of empty, but I encourage you to lean right into it. Discover the self that has been waiting for you all along. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and here's my challenge to you today. Go take your mental energy back.